Hello. This is Whitney.
And it's your girl Alicia.
And this is the Lux Hour Podcast.
Join us weekly as we encourage Black women to elevate into luxury.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Long time no speak. I'm excited to be back.
I know, me too.
What an episode.
Whew, y'all ready?
What an episode we have planned. Okay. So we should get into it. So if you're new here, every week we start out with a wine of the week. Yes. We essentially sample just wines from across the board, reds, whites, rosés, and we give y'all the scoop on whether or not you should give them a try or not. So we'll start out with that, and then Alicia's gonna take us in the treat of the week.
Yes.
Which is where we just kind of go into what our personal luxuries were for the week, what things we treated ourselves to, whether that be a thing, a practice, a habit, an experience, yes. Whatever. So wine of the week, could you hand me the wine, please, ma'am?
Absolutely.
All right.
Super cute.
I swore we did.
We did blueberry.
You're right. Okay, so this is another one. We really liked it though.
We did.
This is another one from the brand Oliver. So this one is going to be a cherry Moscato. It is classified as a bright, sweet cherries meets tropical, bubbly Moscato. It's a Moscato wine with tart cherries, sitting at a nice 6.6%, so it's not too heavy, a perfect summertime wine. The back says this is a sweet tropical Moscato balanced by bright, fresh Montmorency cherries. A hint of spritz finishes every sip. And then this is from Oliver the Winery. And it's an employee-owned company, so come on, shout out to that. All right, so we're going to check it out. Pre-corked, because y'all know we learned our lesson.
Sure did.
I'm tearing up the last one. So Alicia, if you want to hand me your glass, please. Fantastic. All right, let's get into it. Here's that.
Thank you.
So already I can see the carbonation in the wine. So like it said on the bottle, I'm sure it does have that spritz. First thing I'm gonna do is open it up to see what notes it carries. Oh, it smells so good. It literally smells like candy.
Really?
Okay, I remember the blueberry one smelled good too, so let's see. I like it.
You like it? Was it better than the blueberry?
It's not. Let me see. So one thing I will say is if you don't like cherry, you should still give it a try because it's not a super forward cherry flavor. So
okay.
I don't taste the cherry right off the bat. I do taste the tartness, but it's still very sweet.
Okay.
It tastes like a sweet rosé to me. To me, it tastes like if you cross a rosé with the Moscato. But I'm not pulling the cherry, but it's good. It's a good summertime wine for sure. Try it and see what you think.
Let's see, guys.
Your nails match the wine.
They do. It isn't super tart, but I mean, I love cherries, so I enjoy the fact that it's a little bit more tart.
Yeah.
And not as sweet. I mean, it's still a pretty sweet wine.
But do you feel like there's a lot of cherry in it? Like, do you feel like the cherry is super forward?
I don't feel like it's super forward. For me, if anything, cotton candy is a good example, or like a Starburst, how it's very sweet, but at the same time, it gives you a little tart, like a pink Starburst.
It's giving pink Starburst.
So, but anyway, it's really good. Definitely a nice light wine, which I enjoy. Very sweet. Again, perfect for I think like a brunch or a girls' night, something of that nature. Of course, pretty color. I recommend it.
All right.
Yeah, we like that one.
We like that one. That's a good spring wine for sure. If you have any spring event, bridal shower, baby shower, wedding, party,
hopefully
whatever.
It's a bridal shower before a baby shower.
Fingers crossed. Or hopefully you already had your bridal shower and now you're moving on to the baby shower.
Amen.
But that's a good wine for it either way. I
yes.
liked it.
Yes, I enjoyed it. All
right. Treat of the week.
Okay, guys. It is time for the treat of the week. So, treat of the week. So, like what I already said, it's just the luxury that you indulge in for the week, or that we indulge in for the week. So we're gonna share our treats of the week. What was yours?
it's a beautiful day in the Thompson house because I finally got a new bed. Well, I got a new mattress set, which is what I wanted. I didn't get the adjustable one, right? I didn't get it, but the mattress that I got feels like a cloud. It feels like the Lord just took a little piece of heaven and was like, let me send this to my baby. So I love it. It's brand new, super cushy. I've been breaking it in all week. So I kept my same bed set. So I actually got my furniture set in my bedroom. It's like a marble. It's like a big marble set. And I actually got it from my grandfather. So it was his bed set.
Really?
Yeah. And then when he died, I took all of his furniture, all of his bedroom furniture. And so it's mine now. So I kept the same bed. Yeah, I kept the same bed. But new mattress, finally. Hallelujah. Y'all know I haven't won a new mattress. So that was a purchase that I kind of been putting off, and I finally pulled the trigger. I fell asleep on the couch one night, and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm getting a new bed. So I'm glad about that. That was my treat of the week.
That's an amazing treat of the week, because one thing about Whitney, baby, she's going to get her rest.
Here, listen. I need my 8 hours every night. Like, I'm a morning person. So anybody knows me knows that, like, I'm always up responding. I will miss a text at 11 p.m., but I will respond at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm a morning person, so I have all of my energy in the morning. I love getting a good night's sleep. And it's just good for your body, right? It's good for your mind. It's good for your physical health. It's good for whatever health goals you're pursuing. It is completely counterproductive to eat healthy, to work out, and then to get horrible sleep. Right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it is, baby, it was an investment more than worth it for me. So
we love it for you, sis. We love it for you.
What about you? What was your treat of the week?
I would say the treat of the week that I got, honestly, was purchasing my ticket to go back to my hometown, which is St. Louis, to visit my siblings. So 3 of my siblings have birthdays. They're literally 3 birthdays in 5 days.
Happy birthday to the whole Kemp household.
So my big brother Callan, my little sister Kara, and my little brother Avion.
Within 5 days of each other?
Literally, April the 9th through the 14th.
Wow, so you went home that whole time.
And so, obviously Callan's birthday, one of my brother's birthday is today that we're actually recording. So happy birthday, brother.
Happy birthday, Callan.
But I'm actually going home next Tuesday through Saturday, so I'll be spending 5 days there. But normally I don't like to spend as much time in St. Louis for my own reasons. Those from St. Louis understand.
St. Louis is high end, baby.
Listen,
chef's kiss to the luxury that is St. Louis.
Yes, I will be getting. Okay, y'all, you just had to be there. You just had to be there. But, so yeah, I'm going back home just to visit them, love on them, spend time with them. Super duper excited to just have the opportunity to share this celebration with all of them. So at this point, I'm the only sibling that's not in St. Louis.
Okay.
At the time. So it was fitting. I miss them. I want to go back to see them. Can't wait. So that's truly a luxury, because family is truly under God for me. Like, that's next in line. Those that I was born into blood with, and those that I have also proclaimed as family. That's really important to me. So definitely a luxury. So I'm super excited.
Very exciting. I feel like it's been a minute since you've been back, at least a few months. No, that was Atlanta for your dad's birthday, right?
Yeah, for my dad's birthday. The last time I've been to St. Louis was, I actually went for Christmas, because my dad was coming for Christmas, and we suffered a loss that month. So we just really wanted to be around each other a lot. So we went to Chicago one of the months, since my dad is from Chicago, and then we went to St. Louis. So yeah, it's been a while, but it might be a while before the next time to listen. But I miss them, so I'm super excited to spend this time with them.
That's good. Yeah, and y'all always kick it. Y'all always have a real good time.
We do. Definitely a luxury.
Oh yeah, it's a luxury for sure, because everybody don't have it. Especially as you start to get older, you value your family so much more. So that's definitely a luxury for sure.
Yes, I think we're just really excited to get into this episode. So I think we're kind of like, look, y'all.
Wrap it up.
Let's get this out the way, because we have things to talk about.
What are we talking about? Tell the people what we're talking about.
We are talking about the state of the black man.
Oh.
Okay, so in general, the state of black men. And we will be getting pretty specific. We have a few things that we want to run through. So I'll let Whit take us through the first sector, first component.
All right. So basically, to add on to what Alicia said, like, obviously there is a lot going on social media related to black men, right? Whether it's the clip of the Channing Crowder guy talking about how Future is obviously the better pick, whether it's Will Smith cracking off on Chris Rock, getting banned from the Oscars for 10 years, whether it's Kevin Samuels and the YouTube gurus at the charge again. There's just so much going on in the media in terms of black men, and we feel like it made all the sense in the world, right, to do a sort of State of the Union, right? Like, where is the black man at? What's going on? How are black men all across the board spiraling, right? And what does that look like for the black community as a whole?
And I think and some people may say, well, why would you ladies talk about it on the Lux Hour podcast? Because we're encouraging black women to elevate into luxury. This is true, but a detrimental piece of, you know, black women doing that is being in a healthy space. And in order to do that, in order to be effective there, we need for the black community to be at a healthy space. And we need our men who are our community leaders, you know, are supposed to be our community leaders. We need them to be in a healthy space. So this is absolutely, you know, our territory to speak on this.
Absolutely. As women, whether you believe this or not, what Alicia and I believe, right, both as Christians and as just women who fall under the more traditional feminine umbrella, right, that the man should be the leader of the household or the community who is taking the orders from God, right? So as the man submits to God, we submit to the man, right? And so it causes a bit of an issue if leadership is not on it. Does that make sense?
Led astray.
It's led astray, right? And so as the black man spirals, so does the entire black household, right? The black woman, the black child, the black community right along with him. And so at some point we have to have a real discussion about these almost buckets that black men are falling into, right? And so we just gonna talk through every single one of these situations, and we're gonna take our time. So it's gonna be a 2-part. We already decided. So we'll see y'all back next week. So
we're here, okay? And hopefully you guys are here as well. And I think that Whit and I, we have both decided as well that we were gonna be extremely candid, you know, during this conversation. It is not in either one of our personalities to shy away from the issues at hand, the topics at hand. We believe that we should deal with these things head on. And I think that we've gotten to a point to where I think we can agree that enough is enough. And there are many conversations that need to be had. There are many things that need to be addressed. Many of these buckets that we're going to address, they need to be chatted through. So, okay, without further ado,
Mr. Crowder. Let's get into this Channing Crowder situation. So, if you have not seen it yet, there is a video clip circulating from yet another black male fueled podcast about what black women are doing wrong. And on this particular episode, the topic of discussion was Russell Wilson versus Future, right? And saying that Future was easily the better pick, for lack of better words, right? I'm just summarizing.
And so they were saying that women pick, it's funny because they were talking about how women just don't pick correct. We pick wrong. Pick wrong.
And then advised us to choose Future over Russell Wilson because Future is less lame.
Essentially, and he was saying, well, Russell Wilson is corny. The quote, Russell Wilson is corny.
Okay.
And, you know, and what he also said is that Sierra, you don't just go from Future to the corny guy, Russell Wilson. So he was kind of making a point like, okay, well, he was alluding to the fact that she was following the money and that's not who she wanted. She didn't want the corny guy. She wanted the popular, misogynistic, toxic guy. The cool guy.
Yep. So the bucket that we have put these men into is the broken-minded bucket, right? So there is a one level of black men who are just completely broken-minded, right? These are men who typically peaked around the high school age, and so they are still very much so trapped in a dynamic of cool versus uncool, popular versus unpopular. Oftentimes they have a flawed, internalized view of blackness, right? Of what it means to be a black man. They think that to be a black man, it means to be thuggish, ruggish, bonish. They think that to be a black man, it means to accumulate as many women as possible, to have zero respect for anyone outside of yourself. Multiple children. And then oftentimes they were raised by single mothers, right? And so they carry a warped view of the role of women.
A single mother and an absent Black father in the household, sometimes in their lives completely. I think we need to note that, because we like to highlight that it's a single mother where she didn't get there alone. If she's a single mother, then most likely there was a man that created a broken home with that single mother.
Yeah.
And either he's there or he's hardly there, but he's not in the home in many of those cases.
Yeah. So because of that, right, because of that dynamic, these are men who still place high levels of value on shallow or materialistic traits, right? Yeah. They do not believe that people can grow or evolve. They think that once you are one person or have done one thing or chosen one path, right? Hence his idea that since Sierra once dated a man like Future, she could never then go and date a man like Russell Wilson, right? And I think this is a particularly dangerous category of black men, because there's a category of black men who have a broken internalized view of their blackness, right? Yeah. But they take it elsewhere, and we're gonna talk about them. But this particular set chooses to stay within the black community and, in a sense, be a cancer. Down. Be a cancer. Yeah, to be a true cancer in the community, right? These men carry like an anger at just.
I think what it is it's projection. Yeah. It's essentially what it is. It's like, okay, well, this is how I feel, and in order to self-soothe, I'm going to project on you what I feel so that you can be in alignment and you can affirm me, you can verify or validate what it is I feel about myself. Because with men like Channing Crowder, I've watched I'm Athlete quite often. I've watched quite a few episodes, and you can tell just by the way that he carries himself, by the way he carries himself, by the way that he articulates, that he does not fall into the Russell Wilson type of category, which is essentially you're a good guy who doesn't have multiple broken homes with multiple women, but a guy who believes in family, who believes in God, and who believes in being the best version of himself. You can tell that this is a gentleman that's speaking of, well, obviously Future's a better option because Future is more relatively, he's more relative to him, or it's more obtainable, right? Because again, for Channing Crowder, he probably can't, it's something that you said earlier.
He can't, because he can't imagine a world in which he can be a Future type of man or a Russell Wilson type of man, right?
Exactly.
And the reason for that is because in his mind, he has already determined that there are two categories of men, right? And rather than him saying that there are leaders and followers, that there are bosses and workers, that there are fathers and that there are men and boys, right? He has decided that there are cool guys and that there are lame guys.
Or corny
right?
guys.
And because that's the dynamic through which he sees the world, right? He can never allow himself to imagine himself carrying the characteristics of guys who he perceives as lame. So because he thinks that it is lame to not be at the clubs, to not have sections, to not be
with multiple women
or running through cities every day, he can't fathom the idea of himself becoming that, even though deep down, clearly what he wants is Sierra, right? You have to want the woman with which you're furious over her choice, right?
Absolutely.
And you're upset because you're saying she should have chosen a man like you.
Exactly.
Rather than saying, what about this man? Because she did, right? Correct. Like, to your own admission, she did. And she said, let me back this baby up, right? And rather than face that, right, you'd rather say,
it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to deflect.
Yeah.
And that's it 1000%, because let's be real, it pains them. I think that men like this, it pains you that a woman like Sierra, let's be honest. First of all, let's talk about Sierra. She is extremely talented, a talented performer, a talented artist, a talented singer. She's lovable, likable by everyone. She's a supermodel. She's a mom. She's an advocate. She's a brand ambassador. She is a gorgeous woman, and what a lot of men would deem as a baddie. She's your top tier woman. According to beauty standards, societal beauty standards, right? So, yes, it pains him to know that, a woman like that, she did choose a man like me at first, but then she found better.
And think about it, what does it say, right? If you see things through the lens of cool and uncool, if the woman that you want chooses a man that is uncool, automatically in your mind, the dynamic must then be flipped, right? The fear must be, am I uncool? Because a cool woman chose an uncool man. So then does that now flip the role, right?
Yes.
And because their security is rooted in people pleasing, right? And we talk about this a lot in women. We talk about how women have a desire to people please or to be socially accepted, right?
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that in men. And you even can see like through childhood, right? You can see the little boys who compromise on their own values or compromise on the things that they've been taught or the things that they believe so that they can fit in with the cool boys, right? And this happens at the same age that little girls do it, right?
Absolutely.
You see boys who grew up
mean girls.
I know a guy who literally was telling me about how he does not date, or for a long time he wouldn't date any women that his friends thought was not beautiful, because when he says when he was younger, right, he really was rocking with this girl, maybe middle school age, right? But I guess she was darker skinned or whatever the case may be, and his friends was like, oh, you want to be with her, this and that, da, da, da. And he said he vowed to himself at that moment, I will never date a girl that my friends don't think is beautiful, right? And so then if you build your identity as a man on tearing down other men, right, if you build your identity as a man on hyping yourself above the next man based off of your social position rather than what you do or contribute to society, inevitably the tables will turn, right?
Absolutely.
Inevitably the switch will flip, and because popularity only matters until you got to pay bills. Does that make sense? Popularity really only matters until you have to raise kids, until you have to settle down and build a home, and then you have nothing left to offer. The tables have turned, and now you really feel lame because you don't have the things that these other men have. And I think psychologically, that's what's going on with men in this broken-minded.
And that's the war that they're in. And I believe that that's what brings them to this place of frustration, because here you have a man who's fighting, who's advocating, who's getting angry and upset. And how many times have we seen this? We actually saw a display of this recently where a guy was upset because, why don't you want men like me? Right?
Baby, mad. I'm talking yelling.
Veins in his neck, okay? But the thing is, they're at this war because it's like, okay, well, but I've compromised, I've changed, I've followed what society said is cool, and being cool is what'll get you a girl. And in high school,
you miss that window. And what happens is men try to go back and reclaim that territory in their 20s, and it's really only black men that struggle with this, right? Now, this is a bit of a rant, but I'm gonna go on it anyway, so buckle up, right? We talk about the effect of music on the black community, right?
Yeah.
And there was a specific moment in time where the music industry swapped out rhythmic instruments in black music with low frequency bass, right? And so you get the 808 bass, all of a sudden you get the introduction of gangster rap, trunk rattling, somewhere between 30 and 50 gigahertz, right? Like true low frequency bass. And then to accompany this low frequency music, right, they had lyrics that were absolutely detrimental to the mind frame of the black man, right? Glorifying all of the wrong things, putting misogyny, violence, promiscuity, money accumulation by any means, criminality, right, on this pedestal. But in white music, it was still real instruments, real guitars, real drums,
real love,
right? And it matters. The music in itself matters because the frequency of the music does something to our spirits, right? The words matter because that's what cements it. So when your spirit is already in a low frequency place, and then the words come through and they say, "F these bees, you should be a real man by getting money," right? And saying F and not having feelings, that's cementing in your subconscious. And in the same way, when little white boys or Indian boys or Asian boys grow up listening to their music, country music, to your point, right, is 100% rooted in marriage, family, they glorify getting a woman, starting a family, right, being a man and carrying these responsibilities of taking,
and creating a legacy.
And when you pair that with high frequency music, then you get a race of men who desire that, right? Black men can't even get past this, and that's why we said it's a flawed, internalized view of blackness, because that's what they believe it means to be a black man.
And that is quite sad, because you hear about, and we said a word, legacy. You know, when we think about other races of men and they speak in terms of legacy, they're talking about a family dynamic, a true family that they created with one woman, multiple children under them in that lineage, right? When a lot of black men, not all, when a lot of black men talk about legacy, they're talking about having children, not by the same mother, not in the same home, because so if Russell Wilson is corny and we're comparing him to Future has 7+ children, that means 7+ broken homes with 7+ black women that are now going to most likely continue to perpetuate that cycle with the sons or the daughters that they have that are watching them. They're going to think it's okay because mommy did it, daddy did it.
Yeah.
And you think about the Nick Cannons that, he's creating a legacy by having 7 or 9+ children. I don't know how many children he has now. Plus children with different women. That's not a legacy.
No.
That's a broken mindset, and that's a very broken way of looking at what a legacy is.
Amen.
And I think that, again, like we said, when we talk about flawed, internalized blackness, just going to quick rant also, it's this podcast, and Lord Jesus, I only saw this podcast because it popped up on TikTok.
Okay.
We'll get into that, Boogie. But this particular podcast is called Cruise Season. They do have some clips that I'll see cycle on Instagram that I have a particular friend that likes to send me some of the clips that she knows, that I'll enjoy. Because they do seem to have at least one sound mind man on there. But it's 4 men.
Shout out to the one.
Yeah, shout out to the one. Shout out to you, sir. But the other, so it was a clip, and they were talking about, I guess, the Channing Crowder incident. And so one of the guys, he says, well, Russell Wilson is corny. And then, so the other guy said, whoa, wait. What makes him corny? He's an NFL quarterback, arguably top 5. I completely agree with that. And I know sports. Completely agree with that.
And I will also stand by that statement.
How? And he's an NFL quarterback, arguably top 5 right now. And then so the guy goes back to, guess where he goes back to? Like you said, he goes back to high school. A lot of these guys, they peaked in high school, and it's evident because he goes back to high school and said, well, corny, just like one of the lame guys, like in high school, that you would be at like the lunch table, and you would smack around, and you would tell him, hey man, buy my lunch, and he would just do what you say. And it was another guy that had the nerve. It was so raggedy. Had the nerve to agree and say, yeah, they'd be like, yeah, get my lunch. And I was just, it was the face palm, y'all. It was a face palm for me. And then so the other guy said, whoa, wait. And he said, wait. Russell Wilson was not getting smacked around in a cafeteria. First of all, he's a top athlete. And he's a big guy. He's been over 6 foot for a while. And he was a starting quarterback. He was not getting smacked around by people. And the guy, of course, he tries to argue his own debate. But let me tell you what I think that he was meaning, but he didn't say when he said that he got smacked around. And it's something I'm going to acknowledge, and I'm going to check in the black community, is because we antiquate dark skin with masculinity and lighter skin with being soft. And that goes for men and women. So then it becomes darker skinned women are, over masculized, and lighter skinned men are over feminized. And so again, I think that, and this was a darker skin. Well, he was a little darker. He was like brown, I think. One of them, the other one was darker skin. But I think that he was kind of hinting at that because Russell Wilson has, he's brighter complected. I know that in the black community, let's be honest, internalized views of blackness, in the black community, a lot of lighter skinned men is treated as, okay, they're supposed to be more feminine and less masculine just because they're lighter skinned. But also at the fact that I think he is a little bit mixed race, Russell Wilson, just looking at his phenotype. But also it's because Russell Wilson, everyone knows, he's not, your top dresser. I
love me a man that can't dress.
He can't dress. Like he dressed like a soccer dad, like for sure. He dresses like a soccer dad. He has no sense of fashion. Sierra definitely turned him up on fashion, as she did Future, because Future was dressing like he was from 2003 when she met him, and she turned him on to high fashion. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But it's because of that. He's not a top-notch dresser. And then the way he wears his hair, it's not a traditional taper fade or anything like that. So I think that, and the fact that he speaks, eloquently, and that he's proper while he's speaking eloquently, and he doesn't use a lot of slang, I think that those are some of the reasons that he didn't mention. But I know for a fact, and I wonder if you agree, that those are some of our flawed, internalized views of blackness that influence what black men see as corny and subsequently what they don't want to be.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I would even add to that, right, that there's a level that attractiveness to women plays in it, right? Because in the same way that women desire to be attractive to men, men desire to be attractive to women, right? Mm-hmm. And we did go through a phase in the Black community, right? We remember the B2K, set it out. We went through a phase where the spectaculars and the little fizzes was what Black women wanted, right? The little bow wows with the hazel eyes. I remember, right? Like, and I think Black men at that point, there's almost a level of jealousy, right? Because even in the animal kingdom, right, men secure women like male peacocks, for example, right?
True.
You gotta have the prettiest tail. And if women think that another man's tail is prettier than your tail, then that man's gonna get the woman, right?
Yeah,
so consequently, if you, as a Black man, they went through every stage of Blackness that Black women did, right? So even in slavery, the lighter skinned men were allowed to be drivers, right? We're allowed to be house butlers, right? And so I think it carries just as deep for Black men, and we don't talk about it, but I think it carries just as deeply as it does for Black women.
As it does for women. I agree 1000%, and it's so funny because I think that as a Black woman, obviously I'm a darker skinned Black woman, so I think that whenever we talk about colorism, I never neglect, colorism again, that that conversation again, it is a preferential treatment for lighter skinned people. But what I'm saying, typically I do, when we have that conversation, I say, okay, I know that, again, lighter skinned people, colorism, you cannot be affected by colorism negatively. But I do think there is a dynamic that in which, if you're going to have that conversation, we also need to be real and have the conversation about the fact that lighter skinned men are also seen as, less feminine in that case. And they're also, I would say, ridiculed for that as well. And there also is a lot of jealousy there as well. Again, it's not the definition of colorism. It's not colorism, but it is another dynamic that does, play a role amongst men, because I've heard it enough to where it's like, because me, as I've gotten older, typically I just tend to date more lighter skinned guys. More lighter skinned guys happen to pursue me. That's what it is. That's a whole nother conversation. And the funny thing is, I've heard from several people, oh, you like those light skinned N words. And it's always from a darker skinned guy. And there's this competition that they have.
It's the same way that like big women love to say like, he love them skinny women. He only like, it stems from a place of, and I say it lightly, but envy, right? Like when, as humans, we don't know how to contain the emotion of desiring something that someone else has that we don't. And if we attribute it to any one quality or trait, right? If we attribute it, well, they have it because they have money. They have it because they had a dad in the house. They have it because she has it because she's light skinned. She has it because she's pretty. He has it because he's rich. Once you start attributing any one trait to the reason why you don't have the things that you have, and I keep speaking to myself on this one too. I think we all can speak, but that's when you really start sliding down a slippery slope. Absolutely. And it turns into hatred. I mean, look at white men. Like the hatred for Black men came surely from white men knowing that Black men were stronger, more superior, physically more apt, right? Socially, soulfully, creatively, artistically, in every way stronger, right? And they say, oh no matter, it can't happen, right? And they broke the Black man down because of that. So I say that to say it's a human trait, right? That if you feel threatened by, that we feel threatened by people who carry the traits that we feel like we're missing. Right?
Absolutely. And then we project.
And then we project. Speaking of projection.
Or direction of projection.
Speaking of projection. Sometimes we project. Yeah. Sometimes we run up on stage and slap out of somebody. Sometimes we lose it completely and we snap, right? The next bucket of guys that we're going to talk about are the good guys.
Yes.
Okay? These are guys who try to do right? Who truly try to be good guys, but they are often led astray by their desires, right? Because deep down, they still desire the things that men who they perceive as the bad boys
or the cool guys
have, right?
The opposite, right?
Ironically enough, that very social clout, right? That very social capital, right? They desire that, but they have morals and principles, right? And they have made their peace with who they are as a man, but they often choose poorly, right? In order to fill that void, right? So because they still want a little piece of that life, right?
They want a little taste.
Yeah, they
of heaven on earth
terribly. They make horrible decisions to fill that gap, right? Either they have terrible friends or they choose a terrible woman as their partner, right? Yeah. Finally, these guys often resort to bitterness over their self-proclaimed niceness. So these are the men that you hear get to a point where they start to be like, I'm a nice guy.
Women don't want the nice guy. Y'all want the bad boys with 3 baby mamas and 4 kids.
If I punch you in the mouth, then
she want me to.
Like, these are those
women
guys.
never choose right. Y'all choose wrong.
Yeah. And in actuality, right, it's that they themselves do not choose right, because even though they morally position themselves in a dynamic that's different than these broken-minded men, right, they still, something in them still desires what it is that these men have, right? So it leads them into this cycle of self-doubt and making decisions rooted in the wrong places altogether.
For sure.
Will Smith and Chris Rock. We put both of these men in the good guy bucket because they both are historically good guys, right? Will Smith is known to be, even when he entered the rap scene, right? My dad used to always be like, see, this is why I love Will Smith. He could rap a whole verse and never curse. Never curse, right? Shout out to my dad. He loved a rapper that don't have to curse in his raps, right? But Will Smith has always been a self-proclaimed, right, good guy, right? Yeah. And same for Chris Rock. He ain't never really been in no situations,
scandals,
right,
or anything of that nature. He even did the documentary on Good Hair.
He do children's animated movies. The man just tried to make people laugh.
Oscar Proud on?
No.
Was he Oscar Proud? Was it? No. That was what's his name?
What he was is Marty off of Madagascar. So one thing I love is
that's Tommy Davidson. I think that was Oscar Proud. But he's done animation. Yeah. He's beloved. He has crossover appeal. Mm-hmm. Let's say that. So he's that guy that has crossover appeal. So he's not he's not a hood guy. Mm-hmm. He's not a sellout either, but he's not a hood guy. Yeah. He's somewhere walking that fine line. We all know him, or first knew him as Pookie on New Jack City. Pookie on New Jack City.
No, but like
Chris Rock.
Oh, Chris Rock. Yeah. Okay, Chris Rock.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, being that I was talking about him, I'm sorry. I started talking about him when we were talking about Will Smith.
No, we were talking about both. We were talking about both. Just why we put them into the good guy bucket, right? Because they good guys. They old guys.
No,
right? They've been in the game for a while.
Not too raunchy. They haven't had scandals as far as like publicly cheating on their wife, humiliating her, bringing children home. Will Smith has 2 very successful, creative, beautiful children that he's raised with his wife. He did have a child with his previous wife, but he's a father to all. They have a good relationship, a good co-parenting relationship. So again, these are just the reasons why we said that. Hey, these are some good guys here. Yeah. Good guys.
The reason that we highlighted how good men choose, right, is because as a man, the best thing you can do for yourself, right, is to be firing on all cylinders by yourself, right? We'll talk later about this video where this lady kind of gets into detail about how men who are not proud of where they are in life are just simply not able to be good partners, right? Until they are proud of where they are in life, whatever that means for them. But these good guys, they get that part checked, right? Mm-hmm. But there's always typically some area of their life that is unfulfilled that they desperately try to fill in the worst ways, right? Yes. So if it's women, they want the woman that the bad boys, right? And it's a male dynamic, right? Because they're like, I want the women that they get, but I want to make her a good girl. I want to show her what it's like to be with a good guy, right?
Because it asserts yourself, like you said, in that male order. You assert yourself as, the king. You assert yourself as, the king of the jungle.
Yeah. Most of the time, these men feel like the only thing they're missing is the right woman, right? But they have a skewed perception of what that is. And if you did not get a chance to see the Oscars incident, essentially what happened is Chris Rock made a poorly timed joke, right? About Jada Pinkett's haircut. She had the haircut allegedly because she has alopecia, and initially people laughed, right? And even Will, right? Yeah. And then he looks over, he sees that Jada is visibly upset, and then he jumps up, walks up to the stage, smacks Chris Rock, right? And then returns to his seat and proceeds to curse him from the chair, right? Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. Yeah, right. He gets banned for 10 years. Will Smith's life work is his art, right? His movies. He's arguably one of the greatest actors of our time, right? And he gets banned from the Oscars on the same night that he wins his first Oscar. That is a huge accomplishment for an actor, right? And so to have these two moments simultaneously combust, right, where you receive the thing that you've been working for your entire life, but also you throw it away in the same night, right? And you throw it away with what people argue, right, as defending your woman, right, protecting your woman. But then we see coming down the road, right, that Jada completely abandons him in the cold on this. Yes. And it's like,
I didn't need to be protected.
Yeah, I didn't need to be protected. I didn't want to marry him anyway. I don't barely like the nigga. The sex ain't good. She's right.
And but this has been going on for years too.
Yeah, but because Will has the desire, right? Even though he's a good guy, he wanted to know he could have the girl that Tupac had. He wanted to have the prettiest girl in the game, right? He wanted to be able to say, yeah, I was the good guy and I got her, right? And I want to take this as a moment to pause for another quick rant. I was thinking a lot, right, about how men say that women receive this fairy tale view of love from Disney Channel movies, right? Like that there will be this Prince Charming that comes and sweeps you off your feet, saves you, etc., right? And this may be true, but men watch those movies the same, and they took something from it too. And what men took from those movies, right, is that they should have the prettiest princess at the ball,
regardless of where she came from.
Regardless of where she came from, what she looked like,
if she was
who she
sweeping and stripping,
to, how she act, is she a witch? They don't care. They just, what little boys took from that is, I will know that I have made it when I get the prettiest girl at the ball, right? The prettiest princess at the ball. And so Will Smith went that route, and he is visibly miserable, right? Like visibly miserable, right? And it's crazy because on the flip side, you see women like Shawnee O'Neal, like Megan Good, pack their bags, leave the men on the entertainment end of the spectrum, right? Like Shaquille O'Neal, like who was Megan Good even with anybody? Tyrese from Baby Boy?
I don't know if she was with anyone prior to Devon Franklin, the pastor. Same thing, because Shawnee O'Neal went for the pastor as well. She went for Keon Henderson.
She did.
And then you had Meg Thee Stallion go from, who she dated, Moneybag, to Toxic, to Party, which Party is also, she was dating Moneybag. Meg was dating Moneybag. Do y'all remember that?
I would have never known.
She was dating Moneybag Yo. But she went to Party, who is not nearly as hood. He's not sipping lean all the time on drugs. And he makes music, but his music is not nearly as dark. Yeah. In matter of fact, one of his most popular sounds now in a song that he did, he was like, if you a black girl, you a black girl, you a black girl, do your thing. Right, that was Party. So that's actually one of the most popular sounds on TikTok and on Instagram. Very popular right now, but he's that type of man. So he's more of like your Will Smiths, if you will. They're leaving those bad guys, the rougher, tougher guys, you know, in the industry for your good guys. But back to your point, because you're making a very valid one that I agree with.
I was just, long story short, saying that these guys, right, are essentially the male version of that which they hate, right, which is the good girls who go for bad boys, right? These good guys then become the good guys who go for bad girls, and I think that leads them every single time.
Look at what happened with Devon Franklin. The moment, I'm sorry, I know we're talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock, but just to go on a tangent, because you really jogged something, the moment that they divorced and they went their separate ways, Megan Good changed her name to Miss Good If You're Nasty. Literally. And this was the wife of
Baby was suppressed.
She was suppressed. She said, look, I gotta bust up out of these shackles.
Call me Miss Good.
Call me Miss Good.
My thing is, what you go date the pastor for anyway, Megan? You knew you
didn't want that. You knew.
And as women, we gotta do a better job of that, because there's confusion that comes on both ends, right? Because women do like to have this bad boy fetish, right? That fuels men like Channing and infuriates men like Will Smith, right? But they get broken down by these men, and
they just want a man who actually likes them and treats them okay.
Y'all gotta stop doing that. Like, as women,
y'all are damaging these men.
We are, and you damaging yourself, right? You damaging your kids. You damaging your own spirit, right? Like in the same way that black men have to pick a standard for themselves and hold it and hold their friends to it, women gotta do the same thing.
Because we can't, and that's why I brought up that instant, because we can't say that and say that, okay, you know, hey, black women don't do the same thing, and that we're not accountable for it too, because we're a part of that vicious cycle. Jada, just leave Will.
Leave him.
At this point, because, and I think that a lot of America's looking like that. I'm not saying take my marital advice, but I'm just saying my humble opinion. You know, leave him, because you don't even like him. You despise him.
And at every turn, you tear him down.
You tearing him down, and it's breaking him down.
You can see it in that man's eyes. Every time
broken.
I see.
Hey, okay, I'm sorry, one other thing. Did you hear, it circled on Facebook after the whole slap incident with Chris Rock. It circled on Facebook. It was a Red Table Talk that Will Smith had came on, in which he was saying that, he had planned the 40th birthday party for Jada Pinkett and Jada Pinkett Smith, and it was going to be, he said, oh yeah, I know that, you know, she, you know, really, she wants this is going to be a big deal for her, so I'm going to make this biggest 40th birthday party ever. And so now, granted, so he did this, and so after she turned 37, from that moment forward, he started planning the biggest party. And basically, he was saying the entire night she frowned, she was so unhappy, she didn't like it, and she told him, "I didn't enjoy it. That was the most displaying. She said that was the most. That was the biggest display of your ego." That's what she told him. After all of that, sis, he spent 3 years.
She said the same
3 years.
in that same clip.
Planning.
She said the same thing about her wedding.
In the wedding, yeah.
And we're talking about a wedding that happened in your 20s, and you still feel the same way on your 40th birthday. Shame on both of them, honestly.
Really?
Because
why are you together?
Truthfully, Will, and I know men like Will Smith in real life, and that is a heartbreaking thing to watch.
Girl, me too.
For men to pander and beg
to be loved properly by their wives.
And that is not the position as a man that you should ever have yourself in. You should always, as a man, require respect. When you go to work, you don't get to choose whether or not you respect your boss and still work there. Absolutely. And in the same way, if a community is off the rails, right? If the black household is out of balance, it is because, and only because, the black man has let the reins slip.
And not asserted his position.
And y'all have to redevelop a sense of authority, a sense of self-respect, right? And that's not just something that you self-proclaim, right? It's how you carry yourself in the world. Absolutely. It's how you treat your community, how you pour back into the world around you. And when you rebuild yourself up, you cannot allow, the Bible says, right? This is biblical. If you choose the wrong woman, you will be better off sleeping on the roof of your house in the
corner of the attic.
Do you understand that? Y'all cannot
in the Bible, please go look it up. Please.
You can't choose women based off of these superficial traits and not think that you can love her into being a good woman. The old adage of you cannot make a street woman into a housewife, there is truth to that, right? Women, just like men, have to want to change. They have to desire to change. It does not matter how much love Will pours into Jada. Will could pour love into Jada until he is depleted of it himself, and she will still be the same woman who did not want to marry him in the first place.
Correct.
And he has to have enough self-respect and self-love. And this is for all of the men who are in relationship with Jada's, right? Who need to free themselves. I don't care how beautiful she is. I don't care what her body looks like. And I don't care how good the sex is. And before you jump into another relationship, you need to go to therapy, because you will be traumatized. Yeah. Leaving the wrong woman is borderline, I'm not lying, borderline witchcraft, and you literally need to go to therapy for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you have to go to therapy for it, not especially once you add the sexual element in. But I'm gonna get off my high horse. I'm just saying that I know a bunch of Will Smiths who think that they can love a woman into being a better woman. In the same way that we cannot do that for men, men cannot do that for women. And if black men want to do anything to help the black community, they can regain a standard of self-respect and hold it for themselves. For themselves and for their friends. Absolutely, because and hold them to a standard. Yeah. We don't want to hear anymore about she bad. But we should be asking, okay, how does she treat you? Does she respect you? You know, does she actually take some type of direction from you? I have a male friend. I have watched him date, I'm not lying, at least 4 different women. And every single time I asked, well, what you like about her? He is never, on 2 occasions, he wasn't able to think of anything. On the other occasion, he started out with her having a huge behind, and that was pretty much the extent of it. And on the 4th one, it was because she basically needed to be loved back to health. right? And it's like, don't you think you deserve better? Like, why do you put the mantle on your shoulder, right, to resuscitate a Jada? And I think men have to start thinking through that, right? They have to start thinking through what do
good guys.
If you're a good guy, then be a good guy.
Exactly.
Does that make sense? If you're a good guy, stand up and be one to yourself first and foremost.
Exactly. Because you're just like the good woman who goes for the bad guy. The roles are just reversed.
And that is what makes it projection, is because you hate it so much because that's what you're doing. If you weren't doing it, it wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't be frustrated by it. If anything, it would break your heart. Right?
Because
when you have a frustration for it, it's always projection.
Because what happened if good guys just start dating good women, and good women just started dating good guys?
What did Auntie Lauren say? It could all be so simple, but we rather make it hard.
We do, because then you try to go find someone to nurse back to health. You try to find someone to love through it all. Struggle love is not something that we have to continue to perpetuate in the Black community. We don't have to, because I'll tell you what, I'm not struggling with you. I'm not struggling with you.
What was the point of Jesus struggling, my ancestors struggling, for me to so that I don't struggle, just for me to choose struggle? I'm not choosing it.
That's a spit.
It's one thing if I didn't have an option and I had to get it out the mud, but the Lord that died for me and my ancestors that came before me worked their behinds off so that I didn't have to choose, that I could choose life. And I think men need to do the same thing. Like, this is a personal one for me, so I'm just gonna get off this high horse. But
yeah, I'll say one more thing too. I think especially when we look at the fact, I think the sad part is that there are great guys out there that you saw a good woman. Your mom is a good woman. Your aunties are good women. Your grandmother was a good woman. You know what it looks like. You've seen the dynamic. Some of you have grown up in 2-parent households. Your parents are still married. Mm-hmm. But yet and still you choose to go out in the world and follow your projections.
That's a good point, because the interesting thing about men that fall into this good guy bucket is that typically, more often than not, these are the men who are most likely to be raised. But because of that, one thing I have noticed is that men who were raised in 2-parent households struggle with stepping up to find their place as a man while their father is still alive. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds grim, but while there is still a man in the house, while there is still a man in your life who ranks over you, men, especially in their 20s, have a hard time, finding their own place and their own role as a man. And it could even be their mom if they have an overbearing mom. Yeah. But I say that to say that men who do not feel comfortable asserting their manhood, it's typically because there's something suffocating over their heads, right? And so the way that they try to regain that manhood is by getting the next best thing, which is the princess at the ball, right? But it's flawed. It's all flawed and it's all broken.
And it's so true, because the first thing, and even to take it, and then we can move on, even to take it back to every time when you go to a man's wedding and he gives his wedding speech, or he's professing his love for his woman, the first thing he said is, "Oh, you're the most beautiful girl in the world," because that's what they're stuck on. So they're stuck on beauty, because beauty that's currency, right? So for beauty for men is what financial stability is for women, and we can't not acknowledge that. That's real. That's societal, but also at the same time, but it's fair from the provision aspect of it. Yeah. But the beauty, that's something that we truly do have to rethink and rework. And as you notice, Whit and I, we're not sitting here complaining. We're not saying, why don't you choose dark-skinned girl? Why don't you choose ugly girl? Why don't you choose this type of girl? Why don't you choose this girl? Why don't you choose this girl? We're just saying, hey, this is where you're at. It's not working for you. It's not working. Something new, baby. Try something different.
You gotta try something new.
Because getting the most beautiful woman that you can is leaving you miserable, unhappy, and out of character and bitter.
And the main perpetrators pushing this narrative are men like Kevin Samuels, the Roommates podcast, Channing, what's the man?
Fresh and Fit.
All of these black male YouTube gurus, we have placed them into a bucket, affectionately titled sideliners. Okay. Yeah. These are men who never actually hold weight in real life.
They don't.
Okay. They use years of sideline experience, years of being on the sidelines, of watching other men engage and interact in the real world. Right. They use that to now coach others. And they often do not live in reality. They attract niche audiences, right? They attract audiences of people who struggle in very specific areas in dating, who specifically seek out online help in the form of YouTube.
Yeah, because some of those podcasts. So Kevin Samuels, his is he's essentially, and his original platform was teaching men to how to become high value, or what a high value man is, what it consists of, what it entails. Now that has expanded into women,
but because men did not care, listen, or contribute to the conversation, he switched his gear from speaking to men to speaking to women, because men did not respect him enough or care enough about what he had to say.
That's
so
true.
He was stuck with the same 13 males on his Patreon account,
which he
donated $5 in exchange for a question,
because he had a little following, but it was nothing significant. It was nothing over maybe not even 50K
strategy.
He did
attacking the black woman, right?
Yeah. And that's Kevin Samuels for sure. And then you had Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit are the guys who have. So they're the guys they're more red pill. So their target audience is definitely your red pill guy, which is essentially.
What is a red pill?
So the red pill community.
I know what it is
basically
in terms of the Matrix, but
right, which is essentially, for you guys who don't know, the red pill community, they how to engage with women, how to attract women on a superficial level. So that's for the guys who essentially they're trying to get a game or a gimmick, because they don't have any real substance underneath it, or they can't sustain a relationship. So they're focusing on how to get a woman initially in conversation, or how to get a woman in bed. Typically. And typically red pill guys are your guys who aspire to be dominant, who aspire to be like your Christian Grey, but they lack the tools and the resources. So they focus on getting a woman to talk to them or get in their sheets. So that's their target audience. But they also have publicly said that they don't like specifically dark-skinned women, period. But they've also talked about, black women in general. They don't have a lot of black women on their show. They give preferential treatment to other races of women, so non-black women. That's very apparent, and then you have the Roommates podcast, which was put out to encourage black men to level up. That's their thing. So how do you level up all aspects of your life? And they were both unmarried. One of them is still unmarried, but one of them was unmarried for a really long time. He recently just got married and just upgraded his life.
I just want to take a wild
guess.
Which one is unmarried?
The Chris, the brighter complected guy.
He's unmarried?
He's unmarried.
Okay.
Hafiz is the darker complected guy. I think he's like African too.
I need some African.
I think he's I want to say one of his parents is like Nigerian or something. But Hafiz is that's the darker skinned gentleman. He recently got married.
Okay.
So I know he started dating someone after the show blew up, and then it went from there. Their following on YouTube it was the biggest. So in the order, I know Kevin Samuels probably has the most subscribers now. It may be close to 1 million. I know the Roommates they were outpacing
he married a man
else. No, he didn't marry a man. He married a woman. I think she's like.
Oh, this must not be the wedding pictures.
No, sorry, he married a woman.
Well, shoot, it ain't nothing but me. Right. Oh, right here.
Yeah. Well, maybe she's biracial. Maybe she's just a really bright complected black woman. I don't know. But either way, so he recently got married. But yeah, so they probably had the biggest following before Kevin Samuels blew up for the die alone thing. You're a 6 at best. They roughly had like 400K subscribers. I think now they're closer to like 500,000. Maybe Kevin Samuels has like 1 million. And those other guys, their following is becoming bigger now, but their audience and their target audience is very much so bitter than anything else. It's significantly bitter. It's significantly full of beta males. And then you have, like I said, the Roommates podcast, I feel like it's more level-headed, because they're encouraging guys to level up. But you do have some of those like red pill guys or some of those Fresh and Fit, because they have worked with them a lot. Okay. So we're not going to say that they're completely different on their thought beliefs, because they have done each other's, they went on podcasts together. So they're not too far-fetched from what each other, agrees. And then of course we all know Kevin Samuels at this point. Well, many of us know who Kevin Samuels is and what he does at this point. So.
I don't even have too much to say on this bucket, other than these men are completely ripping apart the fabric of black marriages and black relationships, and they are tainting the view not only of what it is to be a man, but what it is to have a woman in your life, right? The way in which they reduce women down,
especially Black women.
Yeah, the way in which they reduce women down to looks and men down to money is truthfully sickening, especially because it does not take into account the fact that so much of the Black community exists underneath that threshold, right? And I think if you truly cared about helping to sustain Black relationships and Black love, right, then your target audience would, one, be different, and two, your content would be more geared towards harmony. Yeah, and their content isn't geared towards harmony whatsoever. The content is always geared towards division. And it's not to say that there isn't female podcasts like that, right? Yeah. Women run podcasts like that. People might look at our podcast and say that it's like that, right? But one thing that I don't think we ever do is intentionally tear down the Black man. No. I think if what I hear correctly about the one podcast that you said is more so talking to men about
leveling
how
up.
They can level
roommates.
Up.
I don't think there's anything wrong
with that, right? Yeah. Because I think there's a large percentage of Black people who want to move upwards in society, right? And in how they carry themselves and in how they live. But in terms of the Black household, right? The information, tactics, and viewpoint that most of these men share is from such a place of brokenness and bitterness that it is completely counterproductive, and it is causing a horrible ripple effect in the Black community. I don't. But as somebody who is a self-proclaimed advocate of the home, I feel like it's natural that I would feel that way. But I don't know.
I don't have too much to say.
I don't have too much to say about it. I think it's sad. I put them one notch above this last category.
Yeah.
So.
I think, and I think, like our friend Tajay says, I feel like one of the worst things the Lord could have did is giving these men a podcast. Not those men in particular, but it's a lot of other podcasts out there that are alike. I recently came across a TikTok when we were talking about, we'll get into this incident on the next one, the abandoners, but it was talking about how a certain guy, he abandoned,
it's one in
particular guy who dated outside of his race, and he was murdered at the hands of that young lady, murdered at the hands of that sex worker. But it was a guy who says, the Black women have been destroying the Black men for years. And what I typically find is that with a lot of Black male podcasters, the majority of them are creating division. The majority of them are literally, I would say, tearing apart Black women. Like, they're literally dissecting Black women and saying, hey, these are all the things that Black women need to do better. They need to be accountable here. This is how you can be a better Black woman. This is how the Black woman can do a better job to support the Black man. Everything is pointing the finger at the Black woman. You rarely see any self-help podcasts from Black men. How can Black men become better? How can we become stronger leaders? How can we become higher earners? And I will give the roommates, I'll give them a shout out. I don't watch them anymore. I did unsubscribe for multiple reasons. But one thing that I do like is that they talk to the men. It was requested that a lot of women were saying, hey, can you make more videos for women? But they mostly spoke to the men. How you can choose better, how you can pick better, how you can become better physically, mentally, psychologically. They talked a lot about that. How can you become more aware? How you can level up your life? But literally, I don't see too many podcasts out there like that. Unfortunately, I see so many people that navigate and flock towards Fresh and Fit because what they're doing is men who felt powerless in society. And in real life, if we want to get real, those are the cornballs that they tried to call Russell Wilson. Essentially you can tell they were the guys who didn't have a lot of social capital, who, they're not very attractive people.
These were the guys,
don't have a lot of money.
These were the guys that hung behind, they were behind the popular guys, literally begging
for their scraps.
That was doing too much. Always the guy that's doing too much.
Yeah,
always the guy that's like there, and people be like, he just keeps.
What's up, bro? What's up?
Yeah,
he's cool, and they like, what's up, man? They don't even know his name. They gave him a nickname. Yeah, they gave him an annoying nickname. Yeah, those were the guys that were like, where my hug at in high school, you didn't even know him, but he wanted to be that popular guy so bad. He wanted to be seen. Yeah. And that's what I feel like these podcasters, majority of them are. They just want to be seen. They want to feel like they have a voice. They want to feel heard.
Well, and I think that with these men, we talked about how the good guys struggle with having active fathers still in their life, ironically, right? But these men struggle with, I would say, these men are the most likely to have struggled with mother wounds, right? And we did a podcast on mother wounds. But essentially, we talk a lot about Black men as fathers. We do not talk a lot about Black women as mothers. And though Black women as mothers stayed, right, a lot of them caused just as much emotional damage as the father did by leaving, right? And so men who were consistently emasculated by their mothers, who have all of these pent up aggressions and angers towards women, a lot of it is what they wish they could tell their mothers about how they could have been a better mom, or how they could have
nurtured
how they could have kept their daddy in the house, right? Like, and we're not saying this from a shady perspective, but from a psychological, this is just simply what it is.
Because you know what, and it was an incident. It's someone that I know, and really, truly, their resentment, they put it all towards their mother. Because, and the truth of the fact is, once, things fell apart at home, the mother was still there. So they resented the fact that my mom is here, but my dad is not. And even though she was present and she was there, she wasn't perfect, but she was there. So now all my aggressions towards her, but I really want to put that aggression towards my father. But like J. Cole said, but I hate that man, but I so badly want a father. I forget, it was on I want to call it was Daddy's Little Girls, or some J. Cole song. It's my favorite artist. I can't remember the song, but essentially he was saying, he was like, I hate my father so much, but I just want a father. So you can't dare take that anger and that bitterness and that resentment and apply it towards this person, because you want that relationship so bad. But what's the easy target? The person who's there. Because we mistreat those who are there because we know we already have their love. But we won't dare do that to those who are not there for us, who are not in our corner, because we want to make it easy for that person to like or to love us, right? And so I think that that's a lot of what goes on with those type of guys as well, that experience mother women, and not to take any of the accountability off the mothers, because a lot of those women, they're traumatized, they're hurt, they're now raising children by themselves when they thought they were going to have a man helping them. Or a lot of those women, they may not get remarried again, or so they're traumatized that they're single and they're working hard, they're operating in a masculine and a feminine, and so they take that out. They don't know how to handle it, they take it out on their children, unfortunately. But can you guys see the ripple effect of these buckets of men and what that does, how the vicious cycle that it creates, and how it affects the Black community and infiltrates the Black home?
And what it does inevitably is create the next bucket of men who are just flat out toxic. This is a younger breed of man, right? Typically these men, they start to fall into other buckets as they age, but
yes, they do.
In their 20s, baby, they just fall into flat out toxic, right? We have referenced men such as DaBaby and Blueface for this bucket. These are men who refuse to grow up. In addition to having that warped view of Blackness, they have a warped view of manhood as a whole. They often lead women absolutely nowhere,
astray.
But for whatever reason, these are the men that typically, right, women find exciting and pursue, and so it perpetuates a horrible cycle. But last but not least, they typically have no concept of respect for other people outside of themselves.
Definitely not a relationship.
Not a relationship. They have no idea what it is to give or to sacrifice or to listen, to love, to be consistent. There was a video clip. I don't even feel like taking my spirit down the road of explaining this Blueface and his girlfriend situation, but if you ever have the time,
y'all can read up on it.
Search the hashtag. But there was a video that recently came out, and he's in a very, very toxic relationship, but he refuses to call, I guess, the young lady his girlfriend. And so she puts out a video, and it's like, what do you mean I'm not your girlfriend? We be having sex, so of course I'm your girlfriend. And he responds back, and it's like, my beard ain't even in yet. I'm only 25. Why I gotta settle down and have a girlfriend at 25? And it's like, do you understand other races of men have already purchased a home and a house, like, and have started having kids, but they don't see the value,
and they're already building wealth. They're already creating generational wealth.
He bought a house, so I'm not saying the man don't have a house, but what I'm saying is that his idea of what it is to be a man and what holds value as a man is completely screwed, and he's different than the broken-minded guy because he is directly. The broken-minded guy is typically toxic towards other men.
Exactly.
Whereas the toxic guy is typically toxic towards women, right? And these be the men that swear that they boys are the end all be all of their existence, right? I love my boys. I'm super loyal. I never lie to my. This
bros
is the future, right? Bros over women. These are the futures of the world, right? Who see themselves and men as fun and exciting, and they see women as just something to do. Dispensable, something to do.
I think that the reason why this is so dangerous, also because not only does it affect that man and the legacy that he's creating, and it does put him light years behind other races of men that are already. I mean, they still have wealth if they're wealthy, if they're in that position. They might be creating wealth, but they could be generating more with a family, with a structure and a household versus having multiple kids by multiple women, paying out thousands of dollars in child support here, there, and there, when they could be building one castle instead of 4 different 3-bedroom houses.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference, is that legacy is not being created. A proper legacy is not being created because having children by whomever, it's not a proper legacy.
And the difference between them and like the good guys and the broken-minded men are constantly going back and forth battling about who gets the girl.
Yeah.
The toxic one is the one that always gets the girl and wants
himself. He wants himself,
he's self-gratifying. But he doesn't have an issue. Women gravitate towards the toxic man. And I think that's what I'm saying is this man gets his pride from the surplus of women that he has access to, because for whatever reason, as women, we gravitate towards, right? And I a young lady at Lit, I believe it was Chelsea on the panel. There was a relationship panel, and she was saying that she really wanted a guy who was tall. And she was saying that not only because she's tall, but because in her mind, physical size equated to feeling safe.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and she just wanted to feel safe. And she was saying that she ended up realizing, like, he doesn't have to be tall to make me feel safe. But I think that bad boy lean, right, comes from that desire. It comes from a desire. And that was a lot of women were even using that as justification for the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, right? Like, I would be flattered if my man jumped up on stage and smacked somebody for me, and because so many women have a desire to be protected. As women, when you grow up in a household without a father, and this is not my experience, but it is the experience of so many women, right? Your number one desire becomes to be protected, right? Yeah. Or if you grew up in a household where you had a father who disappointed you deeply in some way, but was still in the house, right? And from there, women have this desire to never feel that way again, right? To feel safe, to feel protected, to feel covered, to feel supported at all times. And I think just the bad boy appeal.
I think physically though, they mistake safety for just the physical. Like,
physical
you'll beat a dude up for me, you'll shoot a guy for me, like, oh, you'll smack him for me, or you'll be able to beat him up because you're taller, you're bigger, you're buffer. I feel like they look at just those physical traits, and that's where they see safety in. Yeah, and that's warped.
And it's because if you don't grow up with a man in the house, you don't understand all of the ways that men provide security, right? And one of my friends, LD, he is very good at explaining this, right? How men can provide safety in terms of emotional safety, mental safety, spiritual safety, right? If you struggle with anxiety, he brings you peace. If you need help with finances, he balances you out from a spending perspective, right? Whatever the case may be, there are so many other ways in which men can provide security, but you don't realize that when you, one, haven't ever seen that, and two, don't have any point of reference for it, right? And they're different because not only did you not see it or have it for yourself, right? Or even in your family, But we really didn't even get black shows, right?
That
for a
showed
long
us
time that showed that, right? We had, for a small moment, we had a chunk of them, right? We didn't even get black music, black
that
shows.
scene that we
didn't
had,
have.
we needed more of that scene from Fresh Prince where Uncle Phil embraces Will.
Yeah.
And shows him safety from that standpoint.
But that, and we needed more scenes of Uncle Phil with his daughters, right?
True.
That, like, because that's what causes women to pursue the Will
versus, oh, Daddy, can I have $300?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's not the only way a man can provide for you.
So women, that is what makes these men particularly dangerous, is that they have no incentive to change. Typically, they do okay amongst men, right? Yeah. And they have access to with the women in life that they want. And because of that, I mean, they're the equivalent of spoiled men, right? The kids in the candy store, they have their cake and eat it too, and they don't see any reason to change or evolve past that.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is unfortunate, but
it is, and it's unfortunate because women are tremendously affected by this, because then not only the women are flocking to this, but they're also normalizing this as the standard.
And women have a desire to be the one that changed them, the one the one
fixer. Stop.
There was all of these women that wanted this guy, and I was the one that got him and changed him and made him a husband, right? It's like foolishness.
And it definitely is. And I think that, we can speak to that. And I would say myself, I know daggone there, it was a time when I was younger, and I remember my little high school boyfriend, up until like my early 20s, on and off stuff. And I just remember, like, he was well known to be promiscuous, okay? He'd been with a lot of different women at the time. And I just remember, like, at that time I genuinely liked him as a person. But I genuinely liked him as a person for multiple reasons. But I will remember it was some sense of like, okay, yeah, I was the one that got him. I was the one that he wanted to get into a relationship with, and he did get in a relationship with. Oh my God, like, he changed for me. And I think that, it stroked that ego.
Yeah.
On top of everything else. I mean, some women will solely go for guys depending upon that. But then, like I said, in my case, I did genuinely like him as a person. But that stroked my ego. I'm not gonna lie to you. And to this day, I still have women that hate me because of that man.
Yeah.
And child, never mind. But either way, it is real. And if a woman is telling you that she has never done that or experienced that, or that has never been an incentive for her with the guy, then my goodness, she needs to start getting real with herself. But that's why women, they oh my God, this blue check followed me, or this rapper guy wants to fly me out, or this entertainment guy, he did this, he liked my picture, whatever the case is, because it strokes that ego, like, okay, well, hey, this guy sees me, or hey, maybe I can be the one to change this guy, or that. And it does, it gives women clout amongst other women to say, oh yeah, I talked to him, I talked to an NFL player, I talked to a basketball player, I did this, I did that, I talked to a rapper, I dated a rapper. Jesus. Oh, he's gonna change for me. Sis, it's been 7 years, he hasn't married you, you have 2 kids together, and he's cheated on you with 3 other women, he's had 1 other child.
I just want to caution women to be careful about that, because it's simple, if that makes sense. It's a very simple-minded framework to exist within,
especially at our age.
To covet the reactions of other women, right? And I think that as women, when your desires are that simple, right, you are so easily exploited. Not even just as women, as people. When you have simple desires and you are easily read like a book, you are so easily exploited. I know men verbally, like, who have verbally said, right, that Tajay always says that whenever a guy asks her, like, what are you looking for? What type of thing do you want? She never tells him, right? And she says that she doesn't tell him because then they're just going to be that, right? I have had male friends that have directly said, oh, no, for sure. Like, exactly, right? And so the danger with this is that what you want is as simple as every other woman, and so it's the same, right? All women want a reformed bad boy. All women want a man that's incredibly attractive, like you said. And I'm not even gonna say all women, because I say this all the time on this podcast. This is the exact antithesis of my type, and I don't know if it's just sheer rebellion because, or what, but this is the exact opposite of my type. But women are so easily read, right? So that men just know what act to play. Most women want this reformed bad boy type of guy, right? This guy who comes off as tough and rough and mean and streetwise, right? But he's really a softie in person and a teddy bear for her, and he's romantic and intelligent and reads books and writes poems for her. But like he also is a hustler and a grinder and in the gym 24/7. But he can cook and he help around the house and he's gentle.
He's a little articulate, but
like that is just an act that men can play, and 98% of the time they'll hit their target, right? And so women are constantly saying, well, he was one guy when we met and then he was a different guy but that's because
he played a role.
Consistently will overlook red flags. I heard this really, really good perspective on this podcast, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but the lady was talking about how oftentimes we talk about red flags, right? And we say things like, oh, well, he opened the door for me, so he must be chivalrous, right? But then we don't take into account that he never holds the door for any other woman, right? And so we say in our head, because he holds the door, he's chivalrous, right? So he's red, and I'm looking for red, so he must be perfect. Exactly. But if we completely skip over all of the blue things that he does. So really this man is not red. He's purple, right? Because he do a lot of blue things.
Right, he does in the middle.
He does, and not even in the middle. He's just doing this for you.
Purpose.
It's not who he is. It's not his character. It's not something that he does for every woman across the board. He does it for you because he knows that that's what's going to get him closer to his goal, right? And so then women get to the end and they say, I thought he was this thing, and he wasn't. And I don't mean to put the blame here, but I do mean to say that people can only conceal their real personalities for so long. And if you don't got 3 months in you to figure it out, sis, you're gonna keep ending up at the bottom of the barrel. So I don't knock anybody from having their preferences and from wanting the things that they want out of a partnership, because we all are built different. But just understand that if your desires are simple, you will most likely be exploited. And to want the same exact thing that every other woman wants is simple, right? Sierra made a winning move by going the opposite direction. Before Sierra, nobody was checking for men like Russell Wilson. She's very much so popularized that, and now women being sheep at times, right? Now all women want a Russell Wilson.
Right.
Does that make
They're
sense?
like, well, Russell Wilson is a square.
Future. And
I'm
you have to be able to decide for yourself as a woman what you need in a partner, and look for that regardless of what your friends say, regardless of what your social circle says, what type of guy they think you should be with. It just a caution against being simple-minded. That's all.
Because, and like you said, I think both sides, we understand the dynamic of what each other is looking for. Just like with a lot of guys, even your guys in the church, you know, they claim that they want a good woman, they want a good church woman. Yeah, they want a woman that goes to church and believes in the Lord and prays, but they still want her to, you know, drink a little something, smoke a little something, have fun, be a good time. They want a little bit of both. Like they want to be able to have the homie, lover, best friend. That is the truth. They want someone that has a nice balance of both. So it's the same thing that women are wanting, a reformed hood guy. Well, they want a reformed, you know, kind of loose one.
But I would almost say it's different for men, simply because there's no one formula that women can master to say this is the formula to get wiped. Men, if they master a specific formula, they will find a mate. It does not matter what they look like. It does not matter how much money they make. And if once you add money into it, it's a guarantee for sure, right? Yeah. But there's a specific formula that men can emulate, and they can get a woman, right?
That's true.
Women don't have the same luxury though, because you can have what you think a man wants, but men choose based off of inherently, right? This is a subconscious thing. This isn't even something that they do willingly, but they choose based off of the woman who truly is a good fit for who they are as a man, right? Not who they present to the world, not the persona that they show out. And so many women be like, well, I keep my body together, and I cook, and I clean, and I keep my hair done, and I have sex with them 4 times a week, and I don't know what else I can do, and blah 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 blah. But it's like that'll never be enough. There's no formula that you can master to be wifed, right? Men inevitably are going to pick the woman who aligns with who they are as a man. And so as women consistently try to, we share this dream idea of a man, but men don't share that same thing. So men can manipulate us in a way that women cannot manipulate men.
No, I agree with that.
Sense?
I definitely agree with that, but I do still feel like it's that at the same time, they're wanting that balance too.
Yeah,
what I'm just saying. But I definitely agree.
It is for sure.
I definitely agree, and I'll say that I think that men choose on what fits best for them. So that whole notion of,
because even when you say homie, lover, friend, right, that implies that they want somebody
that they can vibe with.
Yeah, but women don't. We don't care if we even like the man. We'd be like, well, he's a good guy, and it's like, but what do you need, right? I've had friends who have literally gotten out of relationships and been like, I don't even know how I like my eggs, or somebody asked me what my favorite color is, and I don't even know what my favorite color is.
Well, we like to watch these movies.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, we normally watch comedy. We normally go here, okay, but what do you like? Because we lose ourselves in that relationship. But you best believe that man is not.
Effectively. Not only do you lose yourself, you didn't have anything to lose, so you just assimilate to whatever the personality is of the man who wants you at that time.
And oftentimes,
and then you look up, you've been single for 10 years, or you've been in back-to-back dead-end relationships, and each time you were a different woman, you don't even have an identity of your own. Yeah. And so somebody asks you, well, what is your dream man? At this point, you can't even tell them. At this point, you're like, I don't know. I just kind of try to be the best man, the best woman possible for every man that try to talk to me. Right? Yeah. And like, you have to know as a woman, what resonates with me? What do I want from a friend, from a partner, from somebody who I plan to build my life with? And so many women don't even know themselves. They don't take the time to know themselves well enough to be able to answer that question. And so they choose from a space of, well, I'm just choosing what I think is a good guy, right? I think a good guy is somebody that's attractive, socially popular, and has enough money to support me, and is nice and romantic, and it helps if he's tall and a little bit rough, right? Like, they say that must be what I want. But like, then you get in and you're like, this isn't actually doing it for me.
I would say you need to find yourself in order to, like you said, in order to not allow these toxic relationships to come in and tell you who you are. And that's where a lot of women lose their self-esteem, their self-worth, their value. At the end of the day, is to be able to assign that value to yourself, and to be able to assign that worth to yourself, and to respect yourself enough to say, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to show up as me authentically every day. If that doesn't appeal to this man, to your point, that just doesn't appeal to him, we'll move on and go our separate ways. Because I think that a lot of times,
to say, I don't like him.
Men be thinking that you be pressed if they say, because I literally had this happen one time. It actually wasn't even too long ago, to where it was me and a guy. We had started, we met each other. We were both very physically attracted to each other. The more that we got to know each other, and we went on a date, and we realized, hey, we're on two different pages. And he was like, and we liked each other as like friends, but we weren't on the same page about what we wanted romantically. Yeah. And so he was just like, so he said it first. I was thinking it, but after that on that ride home, I was like, yeah, this ain't it. Yeah. And he actually said it. He said it just seemed like we're on two different pages. Like, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. It seems like you need this, this, and this. You want this and this and this and this. And I'm just being honest with you. I don't know if I'm ready for anything monogamous on that level. Yeah. And I was like. And I just remember telling him, I said, okay. Yeah. I didn't even decide to come back and be like, shoot, I felt the same way. I just gonna, play it cool. I just was like, okay, yeah. Yeah. And then I remember he was like, see, I can tell you're gonna be upset, you getting mad. I was like, I'm really not mad, because it was mutual. Right. But I think that's the point that women have to get to. We have to get to a place to where we're like, well, I'm betting you for what I want. Exactly. So even and I'm gonna be honest, that guy was very much so toxic. He was very much a guy who was, again, very attractive. He was looking to play. Yeah. And I didn't know that initially, because again, we had randomly met somewhere. We were very physically attracted to each other. We chatted a little bit about some deep things, but we didn't really get into anything romantic until the date. And so that's when we found out he was looking for something toxic. He was looking for like a little like sex buddy, essentially, and I wasn't. Yeah. But I had to be good enough with my feelings weren't hurt. Number one, because I really did feel that way internally, but also I was like, shoot, I agree, and yeah, we're not on the same page. Yeah. So if you choose to pass on me, and if you choose not to change for me, I'm not hurt. Yeah. Because this is not what I need or want.
It's like, we have to see them the same way you see job interviews, right? Like anybody who has done any type of professional development course or build any type of career building, they always tell you that when you go on job interviews, you are interviewing the company just as much as they're interviewing you, right? So it shouldn't just be a matter of them facing questions towards you and saying, so tell us what kind of employee you would be. Tell us what you would do in this situation. But you should also flip it, right, to see, is this a company that I want to work for? Are your other employees happy? Does this team function in a way where I won't have such a severe lack of work-life balance that is causing me depression and anxiety and mental anguish, right? Will this company be able to pay me enough? What does growth look like here? Will I enjoy being here? Is there flexibility that I need, right? And so many times when we're on the job market, we're so desperate to just be hired that we don't interview the company that we're going to be working for. And we do the same thing in the dating world. We're so desperate to just be chosen as women that we don't interview the man back, right? And we make a hell of a lot of avoidable mistakes, right?
Correct.
And we take on a lot of avoidable trauma by doing that. And you have to start interviewing. Dating should be a two-way street. Just as much as you want to be a good fit for him, you should want him to be a good fit for you. And if that doesn't work, like you said, to be able to amicably say, hey, we tried.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times it's so sad. I see women that are scared to even ask what the man is looking for.
Yeah, because they just so happy to be picked. Like, I think women underestimate the desperateness that runs rampant through our community. Like,
women are desperate.
Have seen women become different people altogether at the hopes of simply reeling in a man. Mm-hmm. Not any one particular, not even a good one, just one. Just one, so that she don't have to be 30 and still single.
Yeah.
And it is a sad, sad, sad thing to witness, but I think ladies got to start being honest about the level of desperateness that they really are.
And men play on that.
They
play on that.
point.
They can feel when you're desperate.
Yeah.
They know what ways to trigger you.
And
so why are you still single?
How
old are you? Because they know that, again, I'm 30, and so now I realize that I get closer to 30, I see the manipulation by men. So they're like, yeah, so why are you still single? You haven't wanted to get married? Because they're hoping that they can trigger that desperation that, hey, you can accept whatever I'm given, because at least now you have a suitor. You didn't have anyone before. You were lonely before. Do you want to keep telling people why you're 30 and single, why you're 35 and single, 40 and single, 25 and single? Do you want to keep telling people why you're such a great catch, but you're still single?
Yeah.
They manipulate this all the time. You'll see it all the time, even if when we have these type of conversations about different things that we're holding black men accountable for. Their go-to question, if all else fails, or they either start off with it, are you single? It's a trigger, because they know that, hey, that triggers women, specifically that triggers black women into desperation, or that triggers that desire to not be lonely anymore. Yeah. And they play on that.
And these types of men lead us to our final bucket of abandoners. These are men who have tried to manipulate their place within the black community and failed, and have just decided to wash their hands of it altogether. These men seek acceptance outside of the black community. They often deal with internalized racism, and they carry bitterness over their own personal black experience, right? A lot of which is normally geared towards black women.
There's never going to be a good time to discuss this topic,
because inevitably, to just pull the cat out the bag, what happens is black men in this category abandon the black race, right? And they do it vehemently, vocalizing their distaste for black women, right? Which is what he had, I guess, a social media post, like basically talking about how he doesn't like or respect black women.
I can tell you guys.
But then the problem is, inevitably, when your black behind faces black consequences for dwelling in non-black circles, then they often tend to default back to their blackness as a means for which we should all rally together behind them, right? And so Alicia posed a question, right? Is it fair for black men who are self-proclaimed anti-black women to still hold an expectation of protection from the black community, right? It's one thing if you date outside of your race, and by no means are we speaking towards men who
have your
date outside of their race.
Have your preferences.
Do you?
Please.
But to abandon your blackness as an identity, right, from a place of shame or from a place of distrust, or just simple, I would rather see if I can be accepted over here. Yeah. Once you trade in your card, like, do stupid things, win stupid prizes. Does that make sense? If you abandon your entire community in favor of another community who has historically been anti-you, right?
Then are we still supposed to rally and rage and outrage and protect and fight and picket and put our lives, put our mental health, put our brain power, put our social justice warrioring into play for your benefit and for your cause. Again, this is not to say that we don't care about this shit. I mean, like I said, we started off this conversation saying, rest in peace. That is genuinely felt.
That he did not desire to be our concern.
But if you did not desire to be the concern of Black women because you express you demean, you disgrace Black women. So in that particular case, of course, Black men, a lot of Black men, especially on these podcasts, they are radio silent about this topic of, okay, well, first of all, a Black man, abandon his community and express his disdain along the way. Because it's okay to have your preferences. But now he is in the need of justice, which he still deserves justice. But now Black women are still expected and are still made to feel like they're obligated to support, to help protect, and to provide a safe haven for his family and such and all of his friends in these type of instances. And is that fair to put on the woman to say that, oh, we need you to help protect your men, even the ones who demean and disgrace you?
What's sad about every single one of these buckets, right, is that when it all boils down, every single bucket has a need for and an origin from Black women, right? Yeah. So every bucket, whether it's the broken-minded man that's wrapped in his idea of popular versus unpopular, whether it's the good guy with terrible decision-making, whether it's the Black male YouTube guru, the sideliner, the toxic man, the abandoner, what they all have in common is that despite their bad behavior, inevitably, they find themselves face-to-face with the very women with whom they wreck on a day-to-day basis. And just because one man is vocal about his disdain for Black women, I personally, and this is a hot take, I don't personally see a difference between him putting up the tweets he put up and the lyrics that are in future songs, the lyrics that are in most rap songs. I don't see a difference between his choosing to abandon his community for the sake of white acceptance versus broken-minded men choosing to, or toxic men choosing to willingly neglect and hurt Black. It has the same effect. And inevitably, the state of the Black man is one that is at war on a deep level with the Black woman. And that is why it concerns us. Because at the end of the day, all of these women, all of these men in every single bucket is at war with Black women in some way. Right? Whether they think that she should be a specific way in order to be valuable, whether they think that she should choose a certain type of man in order to be respectable, whether they believe that she should act or look a certain type of way in order to hold weight, whether they think that she is an object to be used or a partner to be exploited, right? Inevitably, y'all are all tearing down the Black community in a way that puts you at war with your only real ally, right? And as Black women, I think we are reaching different levels of frustration with it. Yeah. But it's like, where do you go from here?